welcome to another episode of the Chronicles of Mr. I'm Mr. Pierre, and I'm so glad to be joined by another educator, Mr. Martello. So thank you. So thankful that you're on the podcast. Thank you for coming through.
Absolutely happy to be here. Can't wait to get started.
Awesome. Let's get started right there. Like, how did you get into education?
Sure. So I actually have a slightly different approach to how most people get into teaching. I wasn't a career change, and I didn't get my degree right out of college. So I went to college right out of high school, like most people do, or not most people, you know what I mean, like
Yeah,
how people do,
yeah,
and it didn't work out. I was going through some family trauma. I had lost my dad my senior year of high school, and I didn't know what I was doing. And after 2.5 years at a University of Pittsburgh branch campus, I
hmm
flunked out. Gone. 9 credits was all I could take with me after
wow,
2.5 years. And I tell my kids that. I put the Pitt pennant up in my classroom because I want them to see that it's okay to fail.
yeah,
You just got to come back. And I did. Eventually, I came back. 2 stints at community college later. I went back to the Community College of Allegheny County, which is Pittsburgh's county, and I spent a year there before I ended up going to Duquesne University, which is it's a private college, which made me feel a little dirty. It's the first time I had been in a private institution, but they were incredibly kind to me and offered me a significant scholarship, which I
yeah,
appreciated. And the president of Duquesne, I went to high school with his son years and years before, and it was just one of those like serendipitous moments where I thought this is going to work, and I got very lucky to
hmm
be with my now wife because her and I sat down and I said, if I'm going to do this, I need your help. And she was like, as long as you bring in good grades and some money, go get your degree because it's going to help us in the long run. And it has. It's
wow,
allowed me to get a full-time job, teaching, doing what I love, working with the students I love. And it's been a big deal. I went back to school at 25, which is normal for teachers if they're doing a career change. You know, if they got their bachelor's in economics and now they're going back to school to get their graduate degree and become a math teacher or something like that. That wasn't the case for me. I was a 26-year-old freshman at Duquesne University in class with 18-year-olds, and maybe 26 to, what would that be, 34 isn't that huge of a difference, but 18 to 26 are different worlds. So I felt like I was in class with kids and often referred to them as the kids in the classroom. But it was very encouraging to see that generation. Even though it's not a huge gap, that's a generation gap. It was encouraging to see that generation and their ideas and what they thought of education and watching them develop their ideas over 4 years was super cool.
wow,
But to make the long story long, I failed, and then ended up in a room with my now wife's uncle, who
hmm
is a professor at Wayne State in Detroit. And he was just talking to my grandfather-in-law. I wasn't even in the conversation, and was talking to him about how like Detroit public schools at the time were failing the kids in front of them. They weren't doing them a good service. And I thought in my mind, oh, I could help with that.
yeah,
I could do that. And that's what led me to eventual teaching, guidance counselor first. And then I thought, too much school. We need to get into a
the
building as
class,
soon as possible. Yeah.
yeah,
Get into a classroom now. So long story, very long. Fail. Random conversation in Detroit that I was not even a part of. Duquesne University, teaching in my home district.
wowzers. And you are what grade of kiddos do you teach?
7th grade. I am
Seventh grade.
secondary, so I'm at the very bottom of my cert, 7th through 12th.
Okay.
But 7th grade, middle
Uh,
school it's a lot of fun.
Now I'm a middle school teacher as well.
Yeah.
I teach 6 through 8 math. When you tell folks that you teach middle school, what's usually the the response that they say to you?
Oh, God bless you. Every time.
Yeah,
Every time. Either
yeah,
that or how.
yeah.
How
Okay,
do you do that?
it's the same. Okay.
Yeah.
And do you feel like the middle school is your lane? That if you were to go to high school or if you were to go down to elementary,
Oh, I could never go down to elementary.
okay,
I couldn't. I am too mean, but at the same time, way too nice. I'm
Yeah.
soft,
Yeah.
and I don't know if it's because I became a father or even before that. I don't know, but I do like summer program work, and I often get put with the younger grades just because you
Yeah.
get in what you fit in kind of thing.
Yep.
And if I'm with a second grade or third grade class, I'm either too mean and I've made someone cry,
Yeah.
or I let them do whatever they want. Anything. Go ahead, have fun. Run around. I don't care. Don't run with scissors. That's the
Yeah.
rule. That's it. After that, you can do literally anything you want. And that's why I know I couldn't do elementary. Now, I student taught seniors. Um, for the next couple years, I bounced between sixth and seventh grade mostly, and then I've landed now in seventh grade. I like this age a lot.
Yeah.
At the same time, I direct a musical at a different school than I teach at, and that's seventh through 12th grade. That's like a junior, senior high kind of thing. And so I work with high schoolers all the time doing that.
Hmm.
We're going to get started with rehearsals middle of January kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm very comfortable with that age group, but it's a different beast. It's a very different kind of world there where like director Mr. Martello and teacher Mr. Martello, they overlap, but they're not the same guy.
And I try explaining this to others, and everything you're saying, I agree and echo 100% that the mindset of a elementary school teacher is totally different. Like your tone, what you're saying, even like the manner in which they're giving directions is very like sing-songy, which is like
Mm-hmm.
appropriate for that age of kiddos. Whereas with middle school, there's like a directness. But like you said, there's
Mm-hmm.
like you have to manage both sides of that coin of being soft but also stern, and firm in whatever it is that you're teaching or being. And I haven't had that experience yet of like you were saying of being the director versus being the teacher. But I do understand like the different hats that you have to wear. When it calls for it. And as a teacher, I'm sure all teachers who are listening to this are knowing like you're the social worker, you're the judge, you're the balance between this and that, you're the designer about hey what stickers to put on your 3 ring binder, whatever. You wear all those
Yeah.
different hats.
Yeah.
um, and you
Stickers
would
are way more important than I thought they would be.
yes
Way
a
they
lot.
love them.
They do. The kids are still kids even if they're in middle school and they're riding that hormone emotional roller coaster. I mean a pack of stickers or even just a star like can
Yeah.
change can change a
I
whole.
got stamps off of Amazon that just say
Ooh,
like you did it.
yeah,
Way to go.
that's the next level,
They
that's
lose
another
their
level.
mind. They lose their mind.
Anyone who's listening, get stickers for your kiddos. Get stickers.
Yeah.
They're amazing.
Dollar
uh,
Tree. It's amazing.
It is. It really is. It's little things. But if I could just ask, what's kept you in this? Because it's been how many years that you've been teaching now?
So I've been teaching. This is my third year.
Hmm.
At the same time, I've been working in school since I was 18.
Okay.
I was 18 years old. I got hired to direct my hometown's junior high musical and coach their junior high soccer team.
Okay.
I did that for about 4 years. I then worked in different schools. Like I'm a dance teacher, or in a past life I was. I've moved on to sitting there and telling them what to do and less showing them what I want them to do because I'm old now.
Yep.
But I went into schools and I taught dance classes from some sort of stipend that they got. I then went and worked at a couple of different alternative schools, and these alternative schools were a school for blind children,
Hmm.
which is actually where my wife works, and it was one of the more grounding experiences of my life. I was able to work with students with multiple disabilities. The School for Blind Children is kind of a misnomer. It's less kids with canes and braille typewriters and more kids with physical disabilities, cognitive disabilities, just many different types of differently abled students. And it was an absolute blessing to be there. It was a a dream that I did not realize I had to serve that community
Wow.
until I went in there at 23 years old and went, oh, okay, this is incredible. This makes me
Yeah.
feel exhausted in every way possible because those kids could run real fast, but also just like emotionally exhausted at the end of the
Hmm.
day. And I did that for about a year and a half. Uh, I then went on to work with students with emotional disorders and also on the autism spectrum at a couple different places. So for about 3.5 years, I worked in alternative schools where the second half of the time I worked with students where magistrates sent them to us,
Okay.
where it was like we need to take you out of the general milieu.
Mm.
You're not quite doing what you need to do there. We're going to put you in here. And then I got the opportunity to show them love and to teach them and to hear their stories and to listen to everything they had to say, whether it was true, whether it was fantasy, whether it was some combination of both. It was so enriching to
Mm.
work with those kids. So it's my third year with a physical degree with a diploma, but I've been 14 working in and out of school. So what's kept me here is I'm not done yet.
Yeah.
I ain't done, to be honest with you. Like it's
Cool.
I have long term dreams, short term dreams, goals, whatever you want to call them. But I'm a old school like wrestling fan. So there's a Stone Cold Steve Austin quote where he goes, "I ain't done with you, Vince, not yet by a long shot." And my brother is gonna flip when he hears me say that, but he's gonna lose his mind. But that's the truth. I'm just not
Yeah.
done. I have way too much to accomplish. Thinking about going back to grad school, thinking about getting my principal cert. I really don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of up in the air right now.
Got it. If there is something that you could have told your younger self, whether it be that 18, 19-year old or even the teacher who's walking into the classroom for the first time, like what would
Sure,
be that thing that you would tell that younger self that you wish you knew sooner that you now know?
sure. There's two things. One is just like you chill out. You're fine. Just relax. You whatever is happening is supposed to happen. It's okay.
Mm.
It's gonna be real hard. It's gonna be real hard in every way possible. But I promise it's gonna get better. Everything is going to get incrementally better every year. I have problems now that 5 years ago, these problems weren't even options. These problems, like now I'm piloting the curriculum that we're probably going to use next year.
Mm.
And 3 years ago, I was begging for a job.
Mm.
3 years ago, I was begging someone to let me teach in their building with whatever curriculum they had. I didn't care.
Yeah.
Whatever you wanted me to teach, I would teach. I applied for everything under the sun. Gym teacher. Uh, I'm not certified to teach gym. It's a private school. We tried. Who cares? A class called Studio where I would teach like presentations. That's kind of ELA. Whatever. It's
Mm.
close enough. I was begging for a job 3 years ago. And now on January 16th, I get to roll out the curriculum that my district is probably going to use. And I'm the only one in my grade, one of three teachers in my building able to do that.
Wow.
So if I could look at 18-year-old me or even 25-year-old me and go, relax, you're fine. And then the second thing is much more teachery. It's do not think that you are cheating your students by taking the more efficient route.
Hmm.
Um, Oftentimes, there is this sort of pride in the suffering.
Hmm.
There's pride in the, oh, I was up until 3 grading essays, and oh, I got up early this morning and I skipped my prep so I could do this or that. Crap, don't do it.
Hmm.
Don't do it. I've been embracing AI this year to write my lesson plans.
Nice.
I know exactly what I want to teach. I know what standards I want to hit. I know what skills I want to practice. But I put all that into an education based AI. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the
Go
name of
for
it.
it. Yeah.
Magic School.
Okay.
Magic School is the dream come true. Chat GPT. We're flirting with a little bit. We're
Yeah.
hey, how you doing? Is that night? Hey, girl. But Magic School has
Yeah.
been a lifesaver, an absolute dream.
I'm all for it. I tell my kiddos as a math teacher, I'm like, look, there are folks who are going to be like, we just want to stick to the abacus. But if you have the calculator, use the calculator. I'm all for it. Yeah,
The
I am all
abacus.
for it. I am all for it. I am not
Yeah.
against technology. I'm not against pushing things forward because I recognize that's how you innovate and you get better. When our parents are like, this is new math, I'm like, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's different than the way that we were taught, and that's to be expected because the times are different. Like we're
Yeah.
here having a conversation about using artificial intelligence and having it do things that would have taken us, those of us who, were first coming up, like you said, staying up to the wee hours of the morning and then
Yeah.
thinking, all right, a cup of coffee or 2 cups of coffee or 5 cups of coffee are going to be sufficient to keep me optimal to be in front
Yeah.
of a room full of kiddos, when it's like, no, it's not. Get your 8 hours of sleep, drink your water, have this tool do what it's supposed to do, but do the work of, like you're saying, of knowing, hey, this is the standard. These are the misconceptions. I got to make sure that I hit this, this, and this. And when this pops up, great. I'm able to address that. But yeah, if the tools can
Yeah. The
assist,
paperwork,
yeah,
the behind this, like student facing stuff, I make everything.
yeah,
I make everything. Now that's going to change with this curriculum because they have some pre-made stuff. But
yeah,
even with that, I said to my assistant or associate principal, ASST principal. I don't remember exactly what the
yep,
that stands for. But I said to her, I go, listen, if you give me a little freedom to be a teacher with this, I'm gonna love it. But if you tell me I have to read these words exactly as is, we're gonna fight. Like we're gonna
yeah,
have an issue.
yeah,
And I don't know if that's my stubbornness, if that's my teacher, if it's a combo of those things, I'm not sure. But as long as I'm allowed to be a teacher, I'll teach whatever you want. I'll teach whatever you want, but it really is it's doing the legwork. All the student facing stuff comes from me. But like if I have to turn something into my principal and it has to be a specific whatever in this format and this and that and the third, I'm gonna go the efficient route
yeah,
and not spend my energy and my time on that. The the bones are mine,
yeah.
but everything else around it, magic school, please make that look pretty.
Like I'm hearing you because I'm sure there are those who are listening to this podcast and from the community who are like, yo, I wish I had an admin that would allow me to just be my full self.
Mm,
Was that always the
mm-mm.
case for you? Because I know I've run
No.
into admin who are like, no, it's got to be like this, it's got to be like this, it's got to be like this, and every statement or ask that they're asking is like just taking a layer. Like, all right, there goes my cardiovascular, I can't do that. There goes my
Mm-hmm.
muscular, I can't do that. There goes, and it's you're left with this very robotic, not you teacher in these lessons, and your kids just they can see it,
They
they
know.
feel it, they know.
They know.
Kids are not they're not stupid, they're not foolish. They can see when you're being real and when you love the material that you're teaching, then that comes through in the lessons. You were about to say that that hasn't always been the case.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's almost been like the Goldilocks
Mm,
story with me the last 3 years, and no hate, no disrespect, or
right, right.
no tea, no shade.
Yep.
I genuinely have appreciated and respected each administrator that I've worked with over the last 3 years. But the truth of it is, my first year, way too much freedom,
Mm.
way too much. Just like, yeah, go have fun. And that was the school. That was like, you froze for a second. I'll wait. You still there, boss?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I'll keep talking. Maybe we'll get lucky. That was the school I was in. It was very much just like open and free, and that was sort of their mission statement, and that was great. Um, Last year, it was a little more
Mm.
regimented, far more militaristic. Just like this is what we need on this day, and there were individuals in that system who helped free that up a little bit. But for the most part, the system was this day, this day, this day, and this is what you have to do, and here's the pacing calendar, and this is when you have to hit each
Yep.
standard. And so I didn't love that. But this year, it's a very healthy mix of the two,
Good,
very
good,
healthy mix.
good, good, good. Just a quick
You're still
side
gone,
note.
Mr. Pierre.
Um,
Oh, hey, there you are.
I was just gonna say
You
I've heard everything that you're saying. The beauty
good.
of particularly this podcast, and this is a shout out to Riverside if they want to, endorse or sponsor, is that unlike Zoom, where if there is ever a lag in either of our internets or the interwebs get a little funky, like then the whole episode is sort of ruined from that point forward. With Riverside, it'll record locally and then send it up to the cloud, and then when I put everything together, it'll take it. So even in that moment where you're like, yo, Mr. Pierre froze, what's going on, boss? I'm like, I can hear you. I got you. I hope he just continues answering like you just did. So that if that ever happens, just keep it pushing.
For
And then
sure.
on my end too, I know too that
Hey,
at the
shout
end of
out
it,
Riverside.
yeah. And shout out to Magnet School if you want to sponsor as well. I know I'm gonna after this
Shout out
episode
Magic School. Absolutely. Listen,
check them out as
they
well.
got like premier memberships and stuff. The free
Sensational.
version's dope, but I'm
Yeah.
just letting you know. Shout out Magic School. Shout out Riverside.
This is it. And I think to anyone who's listening to recognize that those hiccups happen. And I think me now, I think the in listening to you and like you were saying, like finding that Goldilocks mix of like, I recognize that that first year was way too much.
Yeah,
Like, and I think as a first year's teacher, I definitely would have appreciated more of the regiment because all of the theory of what you learn in class does not compare to the reality of when you are in front of your students. All
yeah.
that means nothing because you actually have to apply it to the kids who are in front of you. Each crop of kids, because I like to say we're farmers of the future, each cohort of
Ooh.
kiddos is going to be different. So even if you have a sibling a year after or 2 years after, it's like we've just gone through who knows what. You've just gone through who knows what. The stuff that I was able to teach your oldest sibling is not going to necessarily apply word for word, beat for beat with you. And I'm sure, like as a director, you know, like each show is different. You can have the
Oh
same
yeah,
kiddos, but each night is going to be different. The audience gives you a certain vibe. Where the head space of each kiddo is in their confidence is going to give you a certain vibe too that makes the performance different. And that's the same for you as an educator. Year one, like yourself, I had looking back on it, it was a good amount of freedom. I would have appreciated more to not have felt like, am I doing this right? Like, am I allowed to do this? But I think that
sure.
comes in with like the coaching and your admin and whoever your assistant principal, associate principal, whatever their title is, whoever that person is that's supposed to give you sort of that feedback that they find that sort of mix that works for you and you vice versa.
Yeah, it's been a real blessing because it's. I think I would have appreciated the very regimented, very scripted, very I don't know, thought out if that's the right phrase, but
Yeah.
I think I would have appreciated that approach in year one because I had no idea what I was doing,
Yeah,
no
ditto.
clue. And I don't know, you probably didn't go back far enough on my TikTok, but like the first video I made was almost complaining about the pre-service about how like I didn't learn anything. I because and it's not that I didn't learn anything. I learned uh Bloom and I learned what pedagogy meant. Like I
Yep.
learned a whole bunch of stuff, but very few things that were applicable to the actual classroom.
Hmm.
And that was my very first video, and it went like a little viral, like no,
Yeah.
no big deal. But like it like kind of popped off a little bit, and it was just a bunch of people going, "Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, you're right. I didn't learn it." Many teachers said like I've been teaching for 15, 20 years, and nothing I learned in those classrooms meant anything to what I'm doing, in the classroom now. And I have those long term goals that I talked about. And one of those long term goals is to get in there and completely rip apart the programs. They say you can't put a fire out from inside the house, but I'm sure going to try. I got glasses of water. I'm gonna start
Yeah.
throwing them around.
Yeah.
It's a real issue that I've noticed with like younger teachers that I've seen come out of college, and they're like, I have this 10-page lesson plan. Great, I
Yeah.
dare you to teach it. Good luck.
Right.
Have fun.
You are, and I'm appreciative of, like you mentioned, the TikTok. It's
I
allowed
lost
me
you again,
to
but it's
reach
okay.
out.
I know we're good. I know we're safe
Yeah.
with Riverside.
Yeah. Like
So I'll wait until you are
I I've
confidently and comfortably
appreciated
back.
I have appreciated
Not sponsored by
the technology
SodaStream.
and the tools
Remember
that we
that.
have to be able to do the things that back in the day we just didn't have. Um, and it's been awesome. It's been awesome. Let me do this.
Hey
I
now.
love it because the moment it pauses, and you're like, I have trust in TikTok. I mean, I have trust in Riverside. It'll come
I
back. It'll
do.
come back. And I'm like,
I do.
thank
I'm
you,
just trying to get you
thank you.
sponsored. That's all I'm doing.
um, like the last thing that you said in regards to wanting to, take your cups of water and while you're still inside the house, try to take the fire out. That's what I've appreciated about TikTok and being able to connect with other like-minded educators who are like, look, I'm in it. I don't want to leave. And again, no shade or no tea, like you stated, to
Right.
anyone who chooses to leave. However, because I'm in it and I have the hopes to be in it for a long time, let me do what I can do to put out a little snippet of this in hopes that there will be others who are in here as well who'll pick up their cups of water as well to change the system the way that it currently is.
Yeah,
Because I agree with you
absolutely.
that the current way of what teachers are coming out with and thinking like this is what's actually going to be needed is wild. Like you just mentioned, these 10, 12, 20 plus pages of lesson plans when it's like, hey, yo, once you get in front of those kids, it's going to be all right. How you do you know what the moves are? Do you know what the dance moves are to be able to improvise? Because it really is jazz of like,
Yep.
I know what it is that I want to teach. I know these high notes. I know these low notes. Here are these misconceptions, but everything that's in between, those kids have a say in how it's going to flow.
Yeah.
And
100%.
when did that click for you? Because I think there are a lot of teachers who come out that first year and they're like, I have to do it this way. I have to do it this way. And at some point, hopefully, it turns over. But when did that happen for you?
I would say my second year.
Excellent,
Honestly, my
excellent.
second year because my first year I was a long term sub
Yeah,
pretty much, and I ended up in the same classroom or the same grade at least for 8 months. So I felt like that was my first year teach. I was creating all the material still, so it wasn't like I was just going in there and babysitting for 8 months.
right, right.
But my second year, it was my classroom, Mr. Martello on the door kind of thing,
Excellent.
and I learned very quickly you don't get to do anything that they don't let you do.
Mm,
And they mean the students. You don't get to teach this skill if they just don't care about that skill. If they
right.
don't want to learn that skill, if they don't care about what you're saying, you don't get to say it, or it doesn't get to be heard. However you want to put it.
Mm-hmm.
Because the truth is, and I know it's cliche. I know it's this like ick kind of thing that teachers
Yeah.
get, but like those relationships are the most important thing. I have told a couple admin now in my short career, listen, that first month, don't come in the room because if you want to see curriculum, if you want to see standards being met, if you want to see ELA high intensity, don't come in that first month. Don't do it
Yeah.
because you'll be disappointed. But I
Yeah.
promise you, month two, we're flying,
Yep.
and it's worked for me. I genuinely love the kids I work with, and I've genuinely loved each school I've been at. It's my third school in 3 years. I think I finally found a home. I'm very happy about it.
Awesome.
But it's 100% like I care about the well being of each kid that walks in my door, and that could be the academic well being. That could be the emotional well being. That could be
Mm-hmm.
the social well being. It's I care about the whole kid.
Yeah.
It's a very holistic sort of approach to teaching. I could care less if this kid learns subject, predicate,
Yeah.
adverb. I could care less if they're hungry. I could care less if they didn't get sleep at night because mom works nights and
Right.
some stranger knocked on the door.
Mm-hmm.
True story from this year. I do not
I
care
agree with you.
about the academics when the rest of the child is not being served properly. So that's when I saw the
Correct.
difference was in year two because it was like, okay, I've always cared about kids. It's a different way of caring now. It's a very different way of caring about kids to make sure that they care about what you're saying.
I mean, you got it. I think that's spot on of recognizing
I'm gonna let my
we're
dog out of the room.
we're
I'll be right back.
educators. Oh, got it.
Come on. Back.
She's good.
Water break.
I think you were spot on in regards to what you were saying about if the
I
child,
mean, shout out SodaStream if they also want to
if the
sponsor. That'd be cool
child
too. Teachers
um,
don't get paid that much. We'd like some
academically is
sponsorships,
not
some
there,
advertisements.
then everything else comes second to that.
I'm just looking around to see what Riverside's all about. This is super cool. Hey there, bud.
Hey, hey. That last thing that I heard that I was not in my head to agreeing with completely was academically we're teachers, so we want to make sure that the kiddo is doing great academically. That's part of the reason why we are doing what we're doing. However, like you
Yeah.
mentioned, the holistic aspect of the kiddo, like if they're hungry, if they're emotionally dysregulated, I want to address that first before the academics. And it's great to hear that that is what's happening in your classroom and that you have an admin that is supportive of that, because I know there are teachers who are like, gotta hit this, gotta hit this, gotta hit this. And because of that, it seems everything else falls to the wayside rather than, no, that should be number one, the relationship with your kiddo, so that everything else will flourish from there.
Yeah, it's way easier to teach a kid when they like and respect you.
Right. And they know that you like and respect them as well.
Yeah.
That reciprocity is there. That, hey, the reason why I'm willing to do all the things that Mr. or Mrs. is asking me to do is because I know they'll do it for me. That when I have that off day, they know me. That this is just a moment. It's not the encapsulation of me.
Yeah. I think there's a
Awesome.
generational difference as well with like, we, at least millennials, we were
Mm-hmm.
taught to like, okay, you respect your teacher, but respect meant something different whenever I was a
Yeah.
kid. Respect meant like you sit down, shut up, and listen to everything they say, and you don't
Yep.
question it. Respect to me is just basic kindness. Like I think basic kindness is expected. Basic like human interaction, not being cruel or screaming or yelling or running around the room, like that's expected. But like if I disrespect you, I'm gonna expect you to disrespect me back.
Right.
Like that's listen, you get what you give kind of thing. So I tell my kids all the time, like if they get a little, they pop off a little bit, and that happens. You know, they're in middle school, they're 12, 13, they're going through some things.
Yeah.
Like they pop off, they mouth off a little bit. I go, hey, did I disrespect you? So please don't disrespect me.
Yep.
And that often will diffuse the situation. That'll get them to go, you're right, you good, or
Yeah.
like they'll have to leave for a second and they'll come back and be like, my bad, Mr. Martello, I'm sorry. It's cool. We got it. We're good.
And there are times when I will do something that they interpret as disrespectful, and when they communicate that to me, I'm like, hey, yo, all right, my apologies. I did that
My
was not
bad.
my intention, but that was the impact. Yeah, my bad. I will look to not do that again. And when I don't do that again, they're like, oh snap, he's actually respecting me. Bet. So the next time, if something happens, when you do say like, hey, did I disrespect you? So why you? Because I'm taking what you're doing right now as disrespect. And when
Yeah.
that understanding is like, oh no, he's right. I tell the kid, I'm like, I'm gonna be the sun. I'm gonna try to be constant. You are the planets. I recognize that you're gonna go through those ups and
That's
downs.
cool.
You're a kiddo. You're supposed to. And me as the teacher, I'm supposed to teach you, hey yo,
Yeah.
when you're in your feelings, recognize that's a you moment right now. Like take a
That's a
moment,
you moment.
inhale, yeah, inhale, exhale. This has got nothing to do with me right now.
Yeah.
That okay, go back to doing what you need to do.
Yeah. No,
Sweet.
I like that. And I'm
Yeah.
honest with my kids. Some days I come in and the baby was up all night, or I was working on something, or
Yeah.
I had to cover a class before, so I'm
Yep.
not quite set up like I want to be. I go, listen, guys, I'm just be real with you. I don't have it right now.
Yeah.
I'm here with you. You're going to get everything I have, but what I have is not everything I had yesterday or what I might have. So, like, I'm just, listen, can you help me? Help me.
Yeah.
Like, help me so I can help you kind of thing. I'm real with them.
Yeah. And I feel like kiddos, they gravitate towards that because then they know they can do the same.
Yeah,
And that when
100%.
they're not at 100%, which is like, I get that. No one should be running at 100% all the time. That's not efficient.
No, no,
And
you'll
it's
burn
not
out.
healthy. Yeah, it's not
Right.
healthy. Um, and so, in recognizing that, in naming it, in just saying it out loud, I think the kiddos are like, okay, cool, the dude gets it. Like, there are going to be days when I am at my best, and there are going to be days when I'm not, and that's okay.
That's
That's
cool. I'm a
okay.
human, and they're humans, and we can all be. No one's perfect.
Let's be humans together.
Let's be humans together.
That's it. Was there an educator for you coming up that was that for you? I know for me, I had a teacher. She was my French teacher in high school, Miss Gaffey, who was like
Oh, I
very
love
real with
that.
me. Very. Other teachers or other kids would say that she was strict. I was just like, no, she knows how she runs her classroom. She knows
That's
what
it.
she's and was very clear about it. I was like, bet I know where the line is, and I know where to either go up to the line or not. And I was cool with that. Was there a teacher like that for you?
So I could point to several teachers
Mm,
growing up who I gravitated towards.
yeah.
Um, my second grade teacher, like Miss Catone, whose parents lived across the street from me, and I thought that was super dope.
Awesome.
My sixth grade teacher, Miss Gable, my fifth grade teacher, Mr. Carr, and then like getting into high school, Ms. Dubin was a French teacher of mine who I had for homeroom 2 years in a row. She's
Nice.
super dope. She did like karate of some kind. She always had a big stick. She was like 5 foot tall. She broke up fights, and no one wanted her to break up a fight because like she was good at what she did. If you saw Ms. Dubin going around the corner, I was like, I'm gonna wait and see how she does this. It was super dope. But then like I had English teachers. I love that you point out a French teacher, and you obviously don't teach French.
Yeah.
That's really cool. But I had teachers who were so authentically themselves
Yep.
that it showed me that I could also be, even if our personalities were nothing like each other.
Yeah.
I had a teacher, R.I.P. Mr. Lachek. He passed away a number of years ago, but he was in sort of his last years. Whenever I was in his class, he was a physics teacher. I should not have gotten a C in his class. Let's just be real here. I had no. I remember one thing from physics. It's the rate of gravity, 9 meters per second squared. That's all I
Yep.
remember. That's it. That's all I got. But like my man would throw metal like rods across the room whenever we were taking quizzes, and he would shout, "The Russians are coming! The Russians are coming!" Like he was insane in the best
Yeah.
way. I want to be very clear. Like I loved this guy.
Yeah.
He often would say like, I'm going to take a 3-day vacation, and it's because the school had to suspend him for a few days because he did something that out of pocket.
Wowzers.
He was a menace, and it taught me like, okay, I'm not that. I'm crazy. Don't get me wrong. Like I'll jump on a desk when we're reading something exciting, but like I'm not that. But
Yeah.
I could be that version for myself. So
Yeah.
he was incredible. English wise, I had a teacher named Ms. Deal who I still am in contact with to this day. Ms. Deal and Miss Weaver. Those are my two that I still will see time and time again. I still will reach out to. I sent Miss Deal something that I wrote 4 years ago, and she responded with like a teacher critique in the middle of the school year. Like, you didn't need to do that. You didn't have to do that. That's wild.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
that was really cool. And then, like, I'm sorry, you asked for a teacher and I gave you 27, but it's
But
really the
that's the reality of
reason.
it. We've
Yeah,
we've
it's the
got
reason I'm
multiples. Yeah.
here.
Awesome.
The my high school musical director, who like is still there. They named the auditorium after him. I thought that was a little weird. Like he's still alive, still works there. He's a walk under his name every day. That's a little odd, but hey, get your flowers while you can, I guess. But he was incredibly influential to me as a director, and told me something whenever I was a freshman at Duquesne, going back and interviewing him for something. He said, "You never realize the impact you have on kids until
Mm,
later, until they say something to you at the end of the year, or they come back to you years later and they say
yeah.
something." He said there were many students who I had that were good students and that I loved working with, but they didn't have the lead in the show. They weren't the lead trumpet. They weren't this or that. But they came back and they said how much they appreciated XYZ. And he said, I never realized how much my words mattered. And I've taken that with me throughout my teaching and directing, for sure. While you're frozen, I could talk about so many other teachers.
Man, that's
That's the
that's dope.
blessing
That's
of
dope. The
growing up
words
with wonderful
matter.
educators.
Words
My
matter.
wife's a great
Words
teacher too,
matter.
just for the record. I wonder how awful it sounds every time I take a sip of that. It's probably not great. It's probably not great.
I think one of the things that you said in regards to it being a little weird that he's walking underneath his name, but let a person smell their flowers while they're alive rather than
Yeah.
when they're 6 feet under. And then two, words matter. Like we may not
Mm-hmm.
know the full impact of them, but if when you are cognizant of like, hey, the manner in which I speak this out into the ether and particularly projected towards another human being, how that's going to land and what that effect will have on that person, particularly a young person, is profound. And yeah, not to take don't take that lightly. Words matter a lot.
Yeah, 100%. It
Yeah,
was something it hit me real hard because I didn't think that teachers didn't realize that.
yeah, yeah. I want to be also cognizant of, like you mentioned, you being a dad, and so wanting to would love to be able to chat for another hour or two because I think you are a person who gets it, and I hope that more folks hear that there are educators who enjoy what they're doing, want to change it for the better, and that if you're in this profession, like to keep at it. And if you're a person who chooses to exit, that's your choice, and we wish the best for you. But for those of us who are still in the house, we recognize that the house is on fire. We want to change
Yeah,
things. And we're hoping to get more folks to pick up their cup of water so that things can change. If there, if I could end with this question being, is there a book or books that you're reading at the moment that you would highly recommend?
sure. So for like dirty little ELA teacher secret for me. I'm not a
Yes.
big reader. I'm not. I don't
Audible?
read for fun. Audible constantly,
That's it.
constantly,
Same.
and that's probably the ADHD in me. To be honest
Yep.
with you, if I sit
Yep.
down and try to read a book, I fall asleep, which is
Yeah.
nice
Yeah.
sometimes. I'm mostly reading what I'm going to teach.
Yeah.
At the same time, there are two books that I have been reading lately that it's always by my nightstand. It's Slaughterhouse Five,
Okay.
Vonnegut. And if you are a teacher who teaches the younger grades, read something that you could never talk to them about because you need to get your head out of that, like, especially like my ELA teachers, excuse me, you need to get your head out of the seventh, eighth grade level, and you really need to talk to an adult almost in your literary world. That's what Vonnegut is for me. He says words I could never say with my kids. He wrote in a way that was it spoke to me. Like I really love his writing, but at the same time, it's like way inappropriate for seventh, eighth grade. Could never teach it. And then also, let me look it up actually because I want to make sure that I very much get this one correct. Nope, that's the wrong app. There we go. So on Audible, I have been reading Bell Hooks,
Mm.
and I'll tell you what, it's punching way above my weight class.
Yes.
I love Bell Hooks. I love everything that I've ever heard from Bell Hooks, but at the same time, I'm picking up like every third page, like, oh, there's
Yeah.
a nugget, oh,
Yep.
there's something, because it is way above, and I recognize that. I'm okay
Yeah.
with it. I'm gonna read. It's teaching to transgress is what I've
Mm.
been reading, and it's heavily steeped in like Paulo Freire and like learning as an act of rebellion, and that is something that really speaks to me and I find incredibly fascinating. And I want to, as a white male teacher who teaches in a primarily black space, uh, I want to be the teacher who is that safe person, who is the oh, did
No, yes,
we
you're
good?
good. Yeah.
Cool. Riverside yelled at me for a second. It's okay, Riverside. I'm here. I love you. But like, I want to be that teacher who is the safe place, who can be. That's it. That's the end of that sentence. But bell hooks is way above my mental weight class, and I don't care because it's something that I'm going to read 100 times, and I'm going
Yep.
to get 100 different things from it
Yep.
every single time I read it. So I'm
Absolutely.
Teaching to Transgress is one of the hardest things I've ever read, and I love it. So Bell Hooks, Teaching to Transgress, and Kurt Vonnegut, Slaughterhouse Five are the two things that are. It's just mental weightlifting,
Yeah,
to be honest with you,
yeah.
and I love it. So those are the two books that I often find myself going back to, or just reading whatever I'm going to be teaching that day.
I feel like that's the perfect bookend for this particular episode of the podcast. Bell Hooks and Vonnegut, sensational, sensational,
It's a
and
lot
that
of fun.
recognition of this mental weightlifting, as you were stating, is okay. Is okay. Not getting it all in one sitting is okay. I think it teaches us a little bit of empathy for what our kiddos go through, because I think at times we forget, because the whole we see the whole year. We know, like, we want to go starting here, we want to get here, and at times kiddos can just see the tip of their nose, and
Yeah,
that's okay at times, and that's okay. Cool, 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 cool. I feel like we will have another conversation again, and I look forward to it. Um, so for anyone who's listening, this has been another episode of the Chronicles of Mr. I'm so happy to have had this conversation with you, Mr. Martello. I'm Mr. Pierre. He's Mr. Martello, and this has been another episode of the Chronicles of Mr. And we're out.